Hello, what is up guys? EvilDuoSarm here today, back with another Black Desert video. Today's video will be taking a look at the Awakened Sage in Black Desert, give you an overview of some of the mechanics as well as the combos for this class. This is by no means a full-on guide to the class. What I'm going to do is show you some of the mechanics and how his different skills in the Awakening stance interact with each other so you have a solid or a more solid understanding of how the class works and can apply that knowledge to developing your own combos. And if that method of learning does not work for you, I will post the link to the Sage Discord in the comment section below where you can hop in and just copy paste other people's combos and learn them. But I'm a big fan of knowing why you're doing something, so that's what this video is going to do. Anyway, quickly before we get into the video, if you're new to my channel, new to Black Desert, or you've been watching the videos on the channel and still have not subscribed yet, please consider it. It helps to grow my channel. You'll stay up to date when new content comes out, and I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. And let's start off with a shameless plug for my video on the pre-awakened version of the Sage. So the Succession and pre-awakening version of the Sage. I'm even wearing the same sweater just for continuity's sake. If you are just starting off with the Sage class, you'll probably want to check this out first so you get an understanding of how to play it. It's also linked in the description below. So with that out of the way, let's start off by taking a look at your skills that you can use to swap between awakening and pre-awakening stances. So for the most part, if you open up your skill menu here and you look at the main tab, pretty much any ability here that you can slot on your hotbar in the quick slot settings just by clicking and dragging it down over to this menu can be used to swap from awakening into your pre-awakening stance. So for example, if I swap to the awakening stance with the spear here and I press the one ability, which is a pre-awakening over here, it will swap back to pre-awakening. This works for like literally almost every single ability in your pre-awakening kit. If you place it on the hotbar, you can swap back between it with the button down there. This does not trend the opposite direction, so if you put your awakening skills into this hotbar instead, so for example, if I just dragged like Lightning Prison down here, switch to the magic box and try and hit that ability, it will not let me cast it. So kind of a one-way street between those two things. Now there are a few skills that transition instantly with casts as opposed to having to use hotbars. And the first of those transitions is W plus RMB on the keyboard when you are in your spear stance. So I have the awakening weapon out. If I press the W key and the right mouse button, I will switch to the pre-awakening stance. The ability that this is doing is Absolute Form Shift, and if you hold down the right mouse button, you will also use Form Recall. This is a super armored skill that does pretty solid damage. Nice thing to rotate into your combos. If you find yourself in the pre-awakening stance and are looking to get back to awakening, you have two pretty easy options. The first one is space after any ability, so if I just press like SF just for giggles here, cast the ability and hold down space, I will transition back into the awakening stance. So holding down the spacebar after any pre-awakening ability will bring you back into the awakening stance. Just to show you a different ability, cast it on Magia here and hit the spacebar and it casts me forward there. A second button option is pressing WF. So using WF in general will transition you back into the awakening stance. Now WF is also a gap closer that you can use to cover distance. So if you are in your pre-awakening stance here and you use the ability Absolute Rift Chain to dash forward, you can hold WF at the end of the button, and it will dash you forward into any of your targets that you're trying to attack. So those are your two easy cancels out of pre-awakening. Spacebar after any ability, or WF. So that little mini movement combo we just looked at is an excellent segue into the next portion of the video, where we'll take a look at the different movement buttons and keys that you have on the Sage. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a carpal tunnel inducer. I'm going to keep it simple, but understand that there's a lot of like infinite little chains you can run on this class to really kill your wrists and fingers. The most basic gap closers are the two point and click ones that the Sage has available to them. The first one is to hold WF on the keyboard while you're in range of something. So you can see I got the Scarecrow over there. If I hold WF, I will teleport in behind somebody. Now this WF ability, Spear Bolt, also has a flow, and that flow is Aftershock. So if you hold down the F key on the keyboard after casting the WF ability first, you will repeatedly cast it. So watch right here. Hit F and then hold down F and you will repeatedly cast the ability. This Aftershock ability also has an Arcannon effect, which is going to be shown on several of the skills we'll take a look at here. Basically, it summons a cannon from the sky. So if I just press F to show you here, you can see that that ability summons a cannon. This WF ability also summons a cannon. So watch closely. Above the character, you're going to see that there's a cannon spawning from the sky right there. You got to see it a few times there. So that's all this Arcannon effect means that's on a few skills, is that there's a cannon that fires a lightning bolt down from the sky. But anyway, that was just WF plus F. The other point and click gap closer that we have is the Shift E ability. This ability is Impaling Flash, and as you can see, it basically just blinks you to the target. Now, both of these abilities can be sped up using the RMB Shock Relay ability. So this is your right mouse button. If you click this button down, it will use Shock Relay. So watch the animation time here of WF. You can see you wind up with a spear and you throw it forward. If instead of just hitting WF, you go ahead and hit the right mouse button first, you see it instantly casts. No wind up, no animation, just boom, right away. So right mouse on its own is a frontal guard block that also provides you a 20% crit rate buff, making some sort of movement ability like this or other combo that initiates with right mouse button a really, really strong option. Also note that Shift E can be sped up using this as well, so if I go ahead and hit the Shift E ability, you can see the same thing, throws a spear, dumps forward. If instead I hit the right mouse button first and do this, you can see that it goes much quicker. So the right mouse button ability, Shock Relay, is an excellent ability to use before pretty much any ability in order to speed up its animation. Now, as far as more advanced gap closures that you can throw into these little movement combos, we have the ability Bolt, which is Shift plus any directional key on the keyboard, as well as Lightning Surge, which is space after any skill. We've already used this ability in the previous section when we were using it to swap from the pre-awakening stance to the awakening stance. So these two abilities can be cancelled after each other, and you have to be pretty fast on the keyboard here, I'm not going to lie. But as you can see right there, Shift W plus space with a gap between them where you're not hitting the buttons will cause you to cast those two abilities back to back. You can then follow that up with a right mouse button, aka Shock Relay, into either Shift E, Impaling Flash, or W plus F, which was Spear Bolt. Once again, this is carpal tunnel inducing, and I'm probably going to need like 7 takes to get this right. But what you're going to do is Shift W into space, into right mouse button, into WF. So to hopefully show that at full speed, oh my gosh, I got it first try. Anyway, that's just a generic movement combo type that you can do. Once again, you can extend these types of combos indefinitely by throwing additional animation cancels using Lightning Surge, which has no cooldown, and Bolt, which only has a 2-second cooldown. So you can rotate between these Spear Bolts, Lightning Surge, Bolts, and Impaling Flashes to cover a lot of distance. We also have one more complex movement ability, and that is going to be Divine Executioner. So Divine Executioner has a few different options that you can do for this ability. In its most basic form, you hit the Shift Q key, you go up into the sky, and then you come back down. Now, if you hit the Shift Q key, and then press the left mouse button while you're in the air, you will come back down. So that's a little bit more advanced version of the skill. Next up on the advanced series is where you hit Shift Q, but hit LMB before you jump into the sky. So this time we're gonna hit Shift Q, then left mouse button on the ground here, and we will teleport behind the target. So that one's a little bit more difficult to see. I'll run it again here to show you. Once again, look and see when I'm pressing left mouse button here on the keyboard. If you hit Shift Q and hold left mouse button before you end up in the air, you will go up into the sky and teleport behind the target. So that's the difference of hitting left mouse button before and left mouse button after. If you hit it before, you go behind. If you hit it after, you drop back down. Now there's one more variation you can do to this. What you're going to do for this one is you'll press Shift Q to go up into the sky while holding left mouse button at the start of the skill. Then when you're in the air, you're going to hit the Q key on the keyboard to teleport back to your original location. So for this one, Shift Q holding LMB when you're in the sky, mashing Q, and you'll teleport back over to the original location. So to show you this one more time, Shift Q while hitting left mouse button on the ground, then Q in the sky, and you teleport on back. So slow down the video footage right there and see when I'm pushing the buttons on the keyboard. It'll help you to get that little bit of movement down. But anyway, those are the basic movement abilities on the Sage. Once again, like we showed you a second ago, you can always bring in Rift Chain if you would like into a WF to teleport forward. There's other different permutations and combinations you can do on the class. But in general, I think I've shown you all of the initial building blocks for all of those that you can combine into your own movements. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the skills that flow really, really well with each other. This isn't going to be perfect combos once again, but you'll notice that these are going to be the building blocks in a lot of combos that you're going to do. And the first series of cancels I want to talk about involve the skill Upsurge. So Upsurge is a pretty strong skill that has a pretty long animation. So just to show you it, if I hit Shift right mouse button, there's a lift up phase and then an outward phase. So that was just from holding down Shift right mouse button. There is a second variation to this skill that you can cancel on itself, where you hit left mouse button during the cast animation. So if you hit Shift R and B and then hit left mouse button, it will go forward instead. So you can see a big AoE going in the forward direction. So the skill has its own intricate mechanic built right in. If you just hold down Shift right mouse, you'll do outward, Shift right mouse, and then left mouse, it'll shoot it forward. Now you can bypass this cast animation, this initial lifting up animation here, by casting a few different skills before it. And the easiest one to learn is going to be Rift Storm, which is Shift LMB. So if you hit Shift LMB first and then Shift right mouse button after, you can see it immediately goes into the lateral hit. I don't believe that there's any way to counteract this and make it do the forward hit using this ability first. So do keep that in mind, but you do bypass a ton of the animation time casting it in this order. The ability Upsurge also has a cancel that it can be followed with, and that cancel is Flow Interrogate. So if I use the ability Upsurge right here and shift right mouse button and then hold down the F key after, I will throw 2 lightning spears down. That is the ability Interrogate, and this can all be flowed together in one pretty basic combo building block that you might use into Rift Storm, Upsurge, followed by Flow Interrogate. Just to show you how that would look. So yeah, pretty straightforward combo, decent amount of AoE, really solid damage. Now the ability Upsurge can also be cast out of the ability Lightning Prison. But before we get into that, there are some interesting mechanics with the ability Lightning Prison. So first things first, the ability Interrogate that we just used off of Upsurge can also be cast after Lightning Prison. So if I hit the Shift F key on the keyboard here, and then hold down the F key, you will see that my character throws the spears, and you can also redirect these spears in case whatever you're shooting at moves. So that's really basic combo, just Shift F and then hold down F. We can use the movement ability we discussed a second ago, Bolt, after the first cast of Shift F to then cast Interrogate after. So after Lightning Prison, we can Bolt and then cast the Interrogate in a different location. So just to show you that ability here, if I hit Shift F, and then I use the Bolt out of the way, I can then hit F immediately after and cast those abilities down. This could be useful in PvP if you find yourself getting smacked by somebody and need to get out of the way, or in PvE content if the mobs are positioning around you and you need to relocate, you can use this then. So like we mentioned a minute ago, the ability Lightning Prison can also be followed up by Upsurge instead of using Flow Interrogate. And in this case, if you cast Shift F and then go into Shift right mouse button after, you will see that the ability goes forward. So if you want a lateral Upsurge, you cast Rift Storm first. If you want a forward Upsurge, you will cast Lightning Prison. Both of these abilities will cancel the initial cast animation here. You can then follow up with Interrogate after both of these. So for a full combo here, we can do Shift F, into Shift right mouse button, into F. Pretty straightforward. Now remember how we canceled Lightning Prison using Bolt to then get into the Interrogate? We can do the same thing with Upsurge off of this. But just to show you what a full combo would look like with this, we can press Shift F, cast this animation, dash to the side, Shift right mouse button, and then throw 2 more spears. So that little combo that we did right there was Lightning Prison, into Bolt during the middle of the animation, followed by Upsurge, and Flow Interrogate. This is a pretty darn near fully protected little combo that you can run. Now the last little mini block of skills that I want to show you is going to be something that you could use as potentially like an opener in PvE content or something like that. And it's going to involve the skills Chain Lightning, which we'll use to group mobs, Shock Relay, Radiant Annihilation, and Enlightening Bolt. So this is a little introductory combo that you can do right here. S right mouse button, which is Chain Lightning, is an AoE ability that will group mobs, so you can see that it is attacking multiple enemies in front of me, the multiple scarecrows right there. We can then use the speeding up effect of Shock Relay to cast the ability Radiant Annihilation a bit faster, which then gets cancelled pretty well following the ability SLMB Enlightening Bolt here. This is another carpal tunnel inducing one that's going to require some quick pushing, but just to show you what this one would look like. SRMB, into RMB, into F, into SLMB. So you can picture this in a PvE scenario. You'll be grouping mobs with the Lightning Chain ability where you cast this, they'll all jump in front of you. You can then cast your double laser beams on those targets in front of you to give them a ton of damage from the Arc Cannon effect. Then at this point you can follow that up with any one of the different building blocks we've shown you. You want to use the WF combo here where you go back and forth a couple times? You can do it. I'm not your dad. Looking to swap into Pre-Awakening or something after that? Try WRMB to go into the Pre-Awakening stance immediately. Maybe cast an SF, space, and you're right back into Awakening. Looking for a bit more damage, you could do something like Shift LMB, Shift right mouse button, and then throw a couple spears after. So as you can see, even though I didn't show you a single full-on combo, I showed you how you can build a ton of different combos to do tons of different damage in tons of different scenarios. You see, there was a method to my madness. But that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I already covered all the passives in my previous video, all the different things and how they impact the class. Obviously, you want to get your passives as you can get them. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. So if this video is going to be helpful for you, if it's going to teach you how to play the Sage class Awakening, do let me know in the comment section below. Also, once again, if you're looking for additional information about the class, do feel free to check out the Sage Discord. It is linked down below. It has a lot of great information in it. But anyway, guys, thank you once again so much for watching. I'll see you at the next live stream over on Twitch, the next YouTube video right here, or wherever I happen to see you. Peace.